So Nottingham Forest to Manchester United 2. Obviously, the scoreline is not the talking points of many Manchester United fans because after obviously winning 3 games on the bounce, Manchester United fans had a lot of expectation for the Nottingham Forest game. We definitely expected to win the game. We definitely expected a more better performance level. But the issue for Manchester United was definitely not the scoreline. It was definitely not how we played in general. But the performance level was really not great because we are really flat on some tackles. We are not really combative, athletic, physical as Manchester United was in our previous games. We are not really direct as we were. We are not really a handful to Nottingham Forest in definitely all the parts of the game. And this did not actually mean that Nottingham Forest actually outplayed Manchester United. They did not outplay Manchester United. I think for me it was a 50-50 game. The both teams had their moments to play and try to exploit spaces, but it was definitely a tough game for Manchester United. But I actually feel that there is there is a lot of details to talk about in this game, and that was definitely how Manchester United actually enabled Forest to play very freely on both sides of the pitch. I actually felt that Manchester United actually made it very easy for Nottingham Forest to play. It was very easy for them to exploit us on both sides of the pitch. It was very easy for them to play, and it was very easy for them to play because Manchester United did not really apply a lot of pressures to the Nottingham Forest backline. I felt that they had a lot of freedom to play. They had a lot of spaces. They are fullbacks, and you know that Moreno, Makalenko, they are actually very good in playing the ball. They are good in playing long passes. They are good in exploiting spaces. They had Savano. They had Nico Williams. These are actually very wonderful players which are very good in moving forward. And so giving them that much space and leverage is actually not good because we didn't press them enough. We didn't apply a lot of pressure, and even when we did, it was very flagged. It was not really as physical as Manchester United were in our games. And one of the things that I also want to talk on is actually the shape that Manchester United used out of position. We all know that Ruben Amorim has been using the 4-4-2 shape out of position recently in the past couple of games for Manchester United against Sunderland, against Brighton, and against Liverpool. Manchester United were in the 4-4-2 shape, which enabled us to cover a lot of spaces behind the central midfielder. So in the whole of the Forest game, you're going to find out that Ruben Amorim was using a 5-3-2 shape, just like the shape Manchester United were using last season, and it actually created a lot of problems because there was a lot of spaces behind Casemiro for Hudson-Odoi and Nico Williams to actually exploit. It was very bad for Manchester United because in almost all segments of the game, they were exploiting a lot of spaces, and it was very hard for Casemiro to be able to track them down because in previous game when Manchester United were in a 4-4-2 shape, you're going to find out that Ahmad is going to be connected to the midfield line, and it becomes very easy for him to track the position down, for him to cover that spaces that is going to be behind Casemiro. But in the Nottingham Forest game, Ahmad was more connected to the back five, so it was hard for him to step out, to try to block that spaces that Hudson-Odoi and Nico was able to create, and they were able to create a lot of overlap on the sides, which was very dangerous for Nottingham Forest. And so this is actually what Manchester United would have done differently. We should have actually stuck with our 4-4-2 shape, which would have enabled Ahmad to step into the midfield and try to block those spaces. So guys, Tactical Trafford here. Sorry for interrupting this video. I want to get 3,000 watch hours before the next 90 days, so I want you guys to please help me to watch this video to the end. So guys, another issue we want to talk about is actually the left-hand side issue. It's actually very bad for Manchester United that in every game, majority of our chances are being created by either Ahmad or Mbeumo. This is something that is definitely going to be sorted out by many Premier League coaches because you cannot be using a particular system for a longer period of time, for a period span of maybe 5 games, and you don't expect the coaches in the Premier League to sort this out. So this is something, the Ahmad Diallo and Mbeumo situation is something I'm going to talk about later off in this video, but I want to actually touch on the left side because it has really been an issue for Manchester United, and I just feel that it is just some games in the Premier League this season where we have had like balance on the left side, probably against Arsenal, against Fulham. I thought that we had a lot of balance on the left hand side. We were able to overload the left hand side to try to create moments, to create more chances, and try to connect passing circuit. There was a lot of pentagon shape that was formed on the left hand side, which was good for Manchester United. But I think by those 2 games, Manchester United has not been able to recreate the same overload we have been recreating on the right hand side, and this has made some Manchester United players, particularly Matheus Cunha, to be doing a lot of positional changes. He doesn't seem to stay on the left-hand side. He doesn't seem to create a lot of width. This has really been an issue for Manchester United this season. You're going to find out that just 2 minutes into the game, Dalot was holding the ball. Manchester United were trying to attack, and he had Mbeumo and Benjamin Sesko ahead of him. And you could see that Cunha was not even found in the picture. Definitely, Cunha needs to be helping Diego Dalot more on the left-hand side. He needs to be making that overlapping runs, that decoy runs, to try to take players away, to give Dalot the leverage, the spaces for him to be able to exploit, the opposition team. And this was something that Matheus Cunha was not doing a lot in the Nottingham Forest game. Definitely in this situation, he was supposed to move Savona away from that position. He was supposed to pull out Savona, and this would have enabled Diego Dalot to be able to spot runners in the end, or trying to find those half spaces. And it's actually very, very bad for Manchester United, because we did not really seem to exploit Nottingham Forest more on the left hand side, and this really gave them a lot of leverage. And also 4 minutes into the game, Manchester United had similar situation, and you could see Matheus Cunha standing just in behind Diego Dalot, and you could see that Diego Dalot, from his facial expression and from his body language, he definitely was expecting Matheus Cunha to make that run in behind, to make that decoy run that is going to enable him to pull one of the Nottingham Forest players away and enable him to make some kind of cross on side, or maybe some kind of pass into the penalty area. But Matheus Cunha failed to make that run, and when Diego Dalot finally gave him the ball, that situation was definitely dealt with, because they didn't allow him to make a run inside the box. So this is the issue I'm trying to talk about. I feel that Matheus Cunha doesn't really help Diego Dalot more in terms of attacking and also in terms of defending, because Matheus Cunha definitely, I think the game where he helped Dalot most in defending was against Brighton, because definitely you had Jakub Minte making that run in behind. Is a very deadly player. So I think Matheus Cunha was more defensively good against Brighton, because he was constantly dropping deep to help Diego Dalot. But in the Nottingham Forest game, he did not really help Diego Dalot, because you're going to find out that in terms of tracking down opposition players on the right hand side, Manchester United are pretty solid. Mbeumo, Amad Diallo, Benjamin Sesko, and even Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, they try to overload right hand side to make sure that crosses doesn't come in from there, because definitely you had Hudson Odoi there. So Manchester United was pretty very tight on that particular segment of the pitch. But on the right hand side, Manchester United was really not strong, and that was how the crosses that led to the 2 goals came. The 2 crosses that led to the goals of Nottingham Forest from the right hand side. So this is something that Manchester United need to work on. We really need to work on the left hand side, and this was why Mason Mount could have easily been played in the Nottingham Forest game, because if you look at the hit mount of Mason Mount all throughout this season, you're going to find out that he's very used to keeping that width on the left hand side. He's always ready to make that runs in behind, that decoy runs to help the fullback of Manchester United. So this is something that Ruben Amorim could have actually considered in the game by playing Mason Mount. Probably would have helped Manchester United a bit. So I don't know if you guys remember, after the first few games of the Premier League season, there was a lot of talk for Ruben Amorim to change his system, to change his pattern, to actually try something different, to try Manchester United to play in a 4-man back, in a different style, in a 4-3-3 formation. But Ruben Amorim actually insisted that if the team was going to get used to his pattern, get used to his system, get used to his plan, he's definitely going to change someday, and he's going to be flexible in games. And I was really impressed in the Nottingham Forest game, the way Manchester United were positioned. I think in and out of position we were pretty solid. I know that there were some points where we were passive. It was easy for Nottingham Forest to play, but I feel that Manchester United were really solid in terms of positional discipline. When we actually move out of possession shape, it was easy for Manchester United to go back. I know that we played throughout in the 5-3-2 shape. Manchester United was very solid, and you could find out that in the Arsenal game, because of how Ruben Amorim wanted to play, because of pushing the central backs and the midfield pivot behind, it was hard for Manchester United to have any sort of central progression. But in the Nottingham Forest game, you could see that Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, they were constantly providing central progression routes. They were actually constantly providing passing lanes. They are constantly dropping in the middle to receive those balls in the middle of the park. Manchester United actually gained a lot of central progression in that game. We tried to dominate the game a lot from the middle, and this is something that we have not really seen for Manchester United. You're going to find out that Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro, they are beginning to form a strong partnership for Manchester United. They are beginning to help to dominate games at the middle of the park, and you're going to find out that in this Nottingham Forest game, they were not really apart from each other. They were always close to each other to help them to make passing combinations in the middle to help them to switch plays. So I really loved the combination of Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro. They were really crucial to how Manchester United played. They were constantly providing passing angles, and you know that definitely Manchester United build up by using two central backs splitting wide and then the goalkeeper making it a third man. But you know that Nottingham Forest, they are very good in the low block, and they have a lot of tall defenders like Murillo, Mekalenko, Savano is also tall, Nico Williams as well. So Manchester United were not looking to go long as usual, going very direct from the goalkeeper. So what Manchester United were looking to do was that we build it up with our three-man back, Luke Shaw, Nelly, Matthias De Ligt. We actually build it up with them, and it was nice to see Manchester United pushed up. But we all know that breaking up low block teams has always been an issue for Manchester United. So it was, and I just feel that the game was something that Manchester United would have actually created more. We have actually done more if the threat was coming constantly from both sides of the pitch. And also something I want to emphasize on this video is this constant chance creation that normally comes from the left hand side of the pitch, because you could see that in the game Mbeumo was constantly marked by Murillo. You could see that whenever Amad Diallo decides to go forward, he was definitely being marked. Nottingham Forest simply overloaded the right side of the pitch just to make sure that they nullify Mbeumo and Amad Diallo as much as possible. And despite the overload and despite them trying to mark them, Mbeumo and Amad Diallo was also able to do a lot. They were able to create a lot of chances, make a lot of shots. They were good on set pieces. So it was actually overall a very, well, I say a good game for Manchester United, because Ruben Amorim actually made a statement after the game. He said that if it was last season, Manchester United would have actually lost this game. And I feel that it is actually true, because we were solid in some parts of the game, even though we were pretty flat sometimes. But I think we are still a work in progress, and we cannot expect to win all the games of the season. So what is definitely the takeaway after this game? I just feel that Ruben Amorim should try to sort out the right hand side and the left hand side balance, because the Premier League is definitely getting tougher, and you can't really continue with a particular system without being found out. So this is something that I feel that Ruben Amorim should work on, and I know that Manchester United is definitely going to come back stronger against Spurs.